On worksheet 14, we've added not only direct variation, but indirect variation. So I actually want to just go over real quick what each of these formulas are. So for direct variation, if you'll remember, what we did on the last worksheet, and you looked at on the rules, is y equals k x. Indirect variation is y equals k divided by x. Alright, so now if I look at a table and I want to know if it's direct or indirect or neither, but if it's direct or indirect, each of these are one of those two, I need to look at the relationship between y and x, and then k needs to always be the same. So for direct, if we solve this for k is equal to y divided by x. So if it's going to be direct, y divided by x is always going to be the same. Okay? If it's indirect, this is indirect, we need to solve for k, so opposite of division is multiplication. So k is always going to be x times y. So if the equation is indirect variation, then x times y is always going to be the same, and that's going to be k. And then we can write our equation. So let's take a look at this. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So all of these, when you divide y divided by x, we get 2, which is k. So our formula is just simply y equals 2x. And this is direct variation. Alright, so let's take a look at this one. So I do 30 divided by 2 is 15. 20 divided by 3 is, oh no, it's 6.6666666. So it's not direct. Let's check and see if it's indirect. Alright, so if I multiply them together, I get 60, 60, 60, and 60. So this is indirect, and k is 60. So our formula is y equals 60 divided by x. Alright, so I want you to do the next two. Don't be afraid to use the calculator to divide and multiply. I am going to work them, but I would like you to pause the video and try them on your own before going on. So please pause now. Alright, hopefully you paused. So let's work this. So we have 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. Like I said, don't be afraid to use calculator. 4.5 divided by 3 is 1.5. 6 divided by 4 is 1.5. So all of these are 1.5. So this is direct variation. A good way to remember this is if you divide, it's direct. Alright, there's nothing to say about multiply. But if you divide, it's direct. So our constant of variation, our k, is 1.5. So it's y equals 1.5 x. And if you did this as a fraction and left it as 3 over 2, y equals 3 halves x. That would have been correct as well. Alright, so let's take a look at this one. 30 divided by 1 is 30. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, so it's not direct when we divide it. So let's check and see if it's indirect. So 30 times 1 is 30. 15 times 2 is 30. 10 times 3 is 30. Right, so all of these are 30. So these are indirect. And our formula is y equals 30 over x. Alright, for these ones on the bottom, so we're going to just take a look at our situations here. So it says if y varies directly with x, so we know that that's going to be y equals kx. And k is y divided by x. So y is 84 and x is 16. So k is going to be 84 over 16, which is alright, so I got out my handy calculator and I got k equals 5.25. Okay, so it didn't come out even, but that's okay. So y equals 5.25x. Okay, so when x is 24 and x is 32 and x is 48, just plug this value into your calculator, into your graphing calculator, and find out what y is in each of these cases. And I don't have a calculator that I can put up on the screen on this particular computer, so you're just going to have to believe me. I put in the y equals 5.25x into y1 and just looked at the table for those values, and I got 126, 168, and 252. Now we could get real picky on this graph and say scale this to where it fits to 50 and scale this to where it fits 250. But that's not really the point of this exercise, so I'm not too worried about it. I just want you to look on your calculator and just roughly draw the shape of this graph that you see on the calculator. Okay, so we're going to try the next one. So it says, for his business, don't be afraid, by the way, to pause and try to see if you can do it on your own, but if you can't, that's okay. For his business, Bill has determined that the time t it takes to finish the job varies inversely with the number n of workers. Alright, so we know enough to write our equation, so it varies inversely. So y equals k over x. So remember, since this is on the bottom, we're going to multiply x and y together to get k by itself, right? So k is going to equal y times x. So actually we're doing n and t. So let's determine that t varies inversely with the number n. Alright, so actually we have t and n here. Alright, so k still is going to equal t times n. So t times n, so workers is 16, 4 days, so 16 times 4. Plug it into your calculator, it's okay, but it's 64. So k is equal to 64. So here's our formula. T equals 64 over the number of workers. Time equals 64 divided by the number of workers. Right, so that's our formula. So we just plug that in to our calculator into y1. Now remember, you're going to have to use x here. So 64 divided by x in the calculator. That's just fine, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take the time to do this, and you can try to keep up with me. 64 divided by, I've got to use x. I'm going to go into my table and look for the values for 4, 8, and 12. And when I find those values on my table, I get it's going to take 16 days for 4 workers to do it, 8 days for 8 workers to do it, and 5.333 or 5 1/3 days for 12 workers to do the same job. Again, I just want to see if you can see what this looks like on the graph. I'm not worried about it being picky here. Just want you to see, though, it's this kind of shape. Like a curved line here. Okay? Alright, so if you feel up to it, pause and try to do the next one on your own. If not, I will work it with you. So if y is inversely proportional to x, so again, we're inversely proportional. So y is inversely proportional to x. And y is 4 when x is 12. Find y when x is these numbers. Alright, so again, to find k here, opposite of divide is multiply, so k is equal to x times y. So x is 12, y is 4, so k is equal to 20. Oh, well that's interesting. 48. Okay, 48. I thought it was the same, but I was multiplying wrong. Alright, so it's 48. So we get y is equal to 48 over x. So I'm just going to plug that into my handy calculator, and I'm going to look for when x equals 3, 8, and 10. And when I look on my table, I get y is 16, 8 is 6, and 10 is 4.8. Right, again, I just want you to see what kind of shape this is going to form. I'm not worried about you drawing this exactly. I just want you to see that when it varies inversely, it's this shape here. In the first quadrant, actually this gets mirrored down here in quadrant 3. Okay, but we're only doing positive values here, so it's okay. So here we go. So that's what it looks like.